Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mother's Day Sunday morning Joe and Joe weather show. It's the 9th of May. Also, want to wish my cousin Joe Massaro a happy birthday. He still lives in the old neighborhood, Joe, in Throgs Neck, and he's 8 months older than me, and he and you share a very, very common deep bond. And do you know what that bond is?
What is the bond? One of great communications.
Get ready for this one. You ready?
Right, right.
He had Mrs. Quinn.
Oh God, you ought to get me and you ought to get me connected with this guy. We could spend most of the day. Holy mackerel!
Yes. And
She's
she,
the she's
and
the one woman. She's the one when I found out that she had passed. Instead of bowing my head downward and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry," I actually went around the kitchen table singing "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead."
if you were old enough to be in a restaurant, you would have stood up and said, "Champagne for everybody."
Exactly.
One of my favorite
Oh,
one of my favorite quotes along those lines. I love reading quotes from old movie stars. Okay, and they just didn't hold back. So Betty Davis and Miriam Hopkins back in the 1930s were very, very serious rivals. It didn't really help matters in their relationship that Betty Davis was having an affair with Miriam Hopkins' husband.
yeah.
But um, just to set up the dynamic really quick, uh, Miriam Hopkins was a little bit older than Betty Davis, so she was a big early Hollywood star. But then when Betty Davis came along, she started getting all the prime parts, and Betty Davis rose quickly to fame. And they did a couple of movies together. And reading about the relationship that they had on the set, it was not good uh, at all. So when Miriam Hopkins died, Betty Davis was at a party, and she said, and she was quoted as saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The good Lord has done us a great service. He has taken Miriam Hopkins."
Oh, oh, oh.
I just, I just love that. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm, I'm reserving that quote for somebody special in my life, and we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All
Professionally,
right.
no, not personally special. Professionally special. You'll get that. Um, you understand where I'm coming from with this. Okay, the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware. You got mulch? They got mulch because they make it there and they never run out. Best prices in town. They beat the big box stores. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, on Long Island, serving the entire tri state area. And they've got everything you need to make your yard look grand. 631 756 1125. And the website is omnitruevalue.com. And also, brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialists, meeting all your decorating needs. And when the holidays come, whether you want your home decorated or maybe if you're a landscaper, you want to do this as a side business, you can get in touch with them. They're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, right nearby Omni. And their phone number is 631 957 5106. And the website is liholidaylighting.com. So, first things first, Joe, because we're gonna keep the show short today, being that it's Mother's Day. The
Right.
uh, the day is starting out good today after that horror of yesterday, and that was capped off, by the way. Many of you may have seen that uh, almost textbook-looking waterspout that occurred in Barnegat Bay, off the central New Jersey coast near Toms River, and Toms River on the west side and Seaside Heights Seaside Park on the other. So we got sort of wedged in some dry air in between. Now we've got the next weather system coming. It looks like the rain should, we're almost done with the morning, but we should start to see deteriorating conditions as we go through the afternoon and into tonight.
Yeah, and I think the best thing for everybody is the fact that today is going to turn out to be mainly dry or mostly dry. Certainly, we kicked off the morning here a lot brighter and sunnier than what we had here yesterday when I looked out the window first thing and saw it already was raining. So the better of the two weekend days, the better of the two Mother's Day weekend days turns out to be Mom's Day herself. And for all of you who are in the midst of planning for a brunch for Mom, maybe out of doors, bundle up a little bit because it is a little bit cooler than normal, but it should turn out to be, or should hang on to be, nice for another at least several more hours before things deteriorate quickly later on in the day today. But a great looking start to the day, Joe.
Yeah, that it is. And I got the satellite loop up there. Clouds are starting to arrive though, and you can see the thicker it clouds up fairly quickly here. So you see the thicker overcast that's out to the west. This east-west weather system with low pressure that's heading uh, across the Ohio Valley, going to move across Pennsylvania, and then off the New Jersey coast later tonight. If you're straddling that line, and if you're south of that line, it's actually quite nice across much of Virginia into North Carolina, down in through the southeast. A beautiful sunny day here, but there is a little bit of severe weather risk for parts of the mid-Atlantic states. So you can see southern Virginia into North Carolina, northern South Carolina at risk for marginal risk for severe weather. And we also have a slight risk of severe weather in a small portion of inland South Texas, well inland South Texas, and marginal risk extending across the Gulf states. There's not a whole lot from the standpoint of severe weather. Hang on, I gotta check something here. Hang on one second. I just want to see if this is, the maps should have updated. All right, so look, hold on. Let me back that off. That's actually, that risk area I just showed you was for tomorrow. Today, we do have a much larger area of risk. I'm half asleep. It's Sunday morning. Enhanced risk from northeast Texas, northwest Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas, northern Mississippi, and into southwestern Tennessee. Larger area of slight risk surrounding that. The marginal risk running into southern Ohio and reaching just about to me. But there's no risk in the areas I showed you there. That's actually for tomorrow when the weather front arrives at the coast. And you can see SPC with that marginal risk. That is for tomorrow. And then for Tuesday into Wednesday, we've got marginal risk from much of central and east Texas all across into the Florida Panhandle. Going to be another busy late afternoon and evening in the Southern Plains, Lower Mississippi Valley today for sure.
Are you there?
I'm here. Are you not there?
I'm seeing a buffer wheel now. So
okay, yeah, no, there's a signal.
And that just disappeared. So we're back.
Okay, yeah, no, we just took a brief signal hit here. Okay, it's kind of settled back. I don't know. Somebody waits for our show to come on, and then they start jamming the jamming the internet here in the North Georgia mountains. By the way, the UCAR, we finally got settled where I found a decent radar, Joe. The UCAR apparently was having data feed problems, and now they said that the full U.S. map radar is not going to be available. They're looking for a new data source, but the local radars are. Yeah, I know. The local radars are, and we're seeing some rain moving into western and central Maryland, and some precip is starting to show up aloft in northeastern Pennsylvania. But other than that, I'll go a little bit further to the west just to take a quick peek here. Let's go to the Central PA State College radar, see what's happening there. And that should have a little more precip in. And it does, but it's mostly in the western half of this view, so there's still some time to buy. Just kind of using the old Alan Casper rule of 8 hours from Pittsburgh to New York. you're probably about maybe 4 to 6 hours away from the rain reaching the coastal areas. So there's still some,
Right.
uh, even though it's going to cloud over into the afternoon, the rain is going to take a little while before it gets here.
And the Met fans will be happy to hear that because, of course, they're trying for their fifth win in a row today, and they have Jacob deGrom on the mound, their ace. So that means, of course, the Mets will be hard pressed just to score a single run today. But at least whatever they do, at least they hopefully will have a stretch of dry weather for the afternoon before the first raindrops arrive later on this afternoon.
Yeah, I pulled up Tornado HQ's radar. There's only one working severe thunderstorm warning. Actually, that warning ended 20 minutes ago. So it's obviously those storms that are in the risk area are coming later in the day, and you're starting to see some cells fire up in parts of Mississippi and also in parts of East Texas. You can also see our rain area here in this kind of east-west band with a comma underneath it. That's all pushing to the east. Also, want to mention the fact that we do have some snow that is going to be occurring uh, in the Colorado Rockies. They're at it again over there. They just have some winter weather advisories that have gone up. And also, by the way, wind advisories are up for parts of Tennessee, northern Alabama, and in through Kentucky, and also into parts of South Carolina for when this whole front plays on through. I have to tell you, it's the last couple of days. Not so much was it yesterday? No, the day before yesterday was very windy here. Yesterday was breezy. It wasn't windy. Today the winds have kind of settled down, but it's been a rather breezy stretch here. Well, the wind machines shut off in the Northeast, but for now, but it is playing a bit harder in parts of the Tennessee Valley and into the Southeast.
May I just point out here on the chat board, Mr. Fairchild? Yes, I think you've made yourself clear from the get-go that you didn't see any rain yesterday, that there was not a drop. He's making a comment, Joe, about the fact that we just talked about the rain for later today reaching the coast toward the end of the afternoon. And his comment being, well, will it make it this time? The forecast busted on Long Island yesterday. And again, you made that clear many times, multiple times early in the on the chat board. We don't need to be hit over the head with that. And also, he's talking about a good friend of ours, Joe. It's Jeff Banson, not Jeff Branson, who on his, I suppose it was the News 12 forecast, had rain. And he said, Mr. Fairchild says, not sure what he was looking at, just cloudy and cool. Meanwhile, of course, just south of New York City, as you mentioned, Joe, there were water spouts and some locally heavy downpours that took place. So you see, it's not such an easy task to be a weather forecaster. And the one thing that weather forecasters do not need to be reminded of is the occasional, and I do want to stress that word, occasional period when things just don't work out the way that they are advertised. So again,
I will just chime in on this, okay? Because I'm going to have something. I'm the sort of person that always has something to say. First off, if one takes the time to realize that the entire world, the world may rotate on its axis, but it doesn't, center around your individual person. So yeah, there weren't any there weren't any showers on Long Island, maybe where you were yesterday. I know it was a very gloomy, gloom and doom type of day for everybody. So if this is along the lines of I'm sorry you didn't get the tragedy you were looking for, then we could sort of leave it at that. But I also, for those of you who are on my weather platform on Patreon, and that's at patreon.com/meteorologist Joe Chaffee, because you should never waste an opportunity for a shameless self-promotion. The It was made fairly clear that the showers were going to be in bands, and if you were in the area where those bands happened to be, yeah, you were going to get some showers. But if you were outside of those bands, then you probably weren't going to get for some showers. So it really does require that when you look at a forecast, you should read it carefully. And also, it's also good to read a summary of a discussion with these forecasts because they might explain that concept to your person. So just kind of want to put that out there as in a bit of support. I don't think the forecast was a bust yesterday by any means. So
No, no, by no
that's
means,
just
by no
ridiculous.
means. And but the implication after we had just spoke about precipitation for later today, from someone who's saying, "Well, let's see if this one works out," seems to indicate or seems to allude to the fact that quite possibly the two individuals who are talking about this precip for later today, if it doesn't work out, that that person will be walking around tonight or tomorrow saying, "Well, these two guys I watch on YouTube, they said it was going to rain, but it didn't rain."
All right, and
You know, that
David
kind of thing.
Schwartz, but David Schwartz points out he was on Long Island yesterday, and where it was, it did rain. So there.
So there it is. There you go.
Next time, get in a car or hitch a ride or get an Uber and look to see where the rain is on the radar. And then you can just take a ride and spend 20 or $30 just to be in the area where it actually is raining. Meanwhile, the snow, as we mentioned, for Colorado and the WPC folks in the next 72 hours, Joe, have in a north-south band, probably just west of Denver, a anywhere from an 80 to 100% chance of at least two, and also in western Wyoming, showing that same risk, 80 to 100% chance. And they have an 80% or higher chance in that area in Colorado, west of Denver and northwest of Denver, of an 80% chance of at least four. And when we go to, and I know Ruthless Goat was one of our occasional regulars here. He's probably out doing things on a Sunday morning. But he has been talking about this for where he is in Loveland, Colorado, and there is a 50% chance or higher of at least eight in that band. So winter, they may actually not snow in August. How's that? The way it's been going out there in the Central Rockies.
I'd love to maybe not live out there, but I'd love to spend a few weeks just to experience this crazy weather pattern that they have at the turn of the seasons, especially when they transition from winter to spring. And you have days in the 80s and 90s followed immediately by days with significant snowfall, or in the fall, and we saw
Yeah.
that last September.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just amazing.
Oh yeah. And I guess from a practical standpoint, if you do live out there, most of the time when it does snow, it's usually gone within a day or two, thanks to these the usual wild swings in temperatures. And the elevation helps with the sun and everything, and you suddenly your the temperatures drive up, rise up. It's also the dew points out there are usually pretty low, and that helps the cause as well. Rainfall wise here, it looks like in a very very tight gradient. If you're in from central New Jersey southward, you're looking at a quarter of an inch or less. And also, if you draw a line from, say, Allentown to Harrisburg, south and west of there, that's where the quarter of an inch total precip line is. But then you go just north of New York City, covering all of south and southeastern New England, and going west to northern Pennsylvania, and even further west into Indiana, you're in that three-quarters of an inch plus, and then there's a band of an inch and a half plus in parts of east central Ohio into western PA. The northern flank of the half an inch looks like it gets to about Albany to the Vermont, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Massachusetts state line. Also, big rains for the Gulf states from Texas right through Mississippi into southwestern Alabama of 3 to 5 inches or more. And that's, again, this is for the next 7 days. Showing liquid precip amounts in Colorado, in eastern Colorado, of half an inch to an inch. a little small dot of 1.5 inches. Most of the west is on the quiet side. And here's let me bring up the latest surface map here from 8 a.m. this morning. There's your low in southern Illinois, and this sort of snaky warm front that runs from southern Indiana into eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, then stretches east-west from South Carolina, or west-east from South Carolina offshore. So you look into the southeast, you start to get, dew points here, Joe, are in the 40s and 50s in Georgia. So we're kind of just outside that risk zone. But you get into Mississippi and Alabama and Mississippi and in Louisiana, you've already got dew points up into the 60s. In southeast Texas, you've got dew points right now already in the 70s, or at least starting the day with dew points in the 70s. So very moist tropical air mass trying to surge ahead of this cold front that's going to trigger off severe weather issues later on today.
But we're going to remain in a rather cool and may I use the term clammy type of flow. So it's not going to be necessarily severe weather for us up here. I understand that they, we did speak of water spouts just a stone's throw to the south, but I don't anticipate we're going to be seeing something like that again later today or tonight, or are we?
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. It was pretty,
Okay.
looking back on yesterday with that deep upper trough that we had, and I got the European up from Friday evening, where you have we were talking about this late last week with that short wave that's offshore. That made the coastal storm that went up to Nova Scotia. But meanwhile, you had all this energy and this very, very cold flow coming down out of Canada. This was, as we mentioned earlier this week, this was something that was certainly of something that winter weather lovers would have loved to have seen in the month of January when we were in a blocking pattern and basically blocking Pacific air. But this was certainly a very cold setup. And we've had these instances, Joe, and it's common from March into May where you're very cold aloft. The upper atmosphere is slower to warm than the lower atmosphere, and so you get these disparities and these areas of large instability because of the cold pool that's in the upper atmosphere. And yesterday was one of those kind of days. The upper trough the northern upper trough dropping right into and off the Jersey coast, and voila, low top low top convection with a water spout.
Right, and yeah. It's not unusual, completely unusual. We've certainly over the years have seen that, not just out on coastal areas of Long Island, but I think somewhere on the National Weather Service New York City site, they still have the photograph of the. I don't remember if it was specifically a tornado or a water spout in the background, a picture of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
it happens.
Yeah. Take a look at this upper air and how everything's kind of working together with the gears turning. An upper low on the right over Nova Scotia, an upper low on the western shores of James Bay, an upper low in Montana, and that whole complex just seems to pivot for tonight into tomorrow. I got the map up here for last night, and here we are for this evening. And the western trough is dropping. The upper low in Nova Scotia is lifting up northeast toward Newfoundland, and you still have the James Bay low just kind of sitting there, and then that gradually drops southeastward. So ultimately, that is going to pass a trough through here probably Tuesday night into Wednesday. Another situation where you've got cold air aloft in an upper trough. I don't know how much this is going to generate in terms. It's certainly, I think, going to generate some clouds here come Tuesday. And what we're going to see here in the east this week is I think it's going to be on the cool. It's going to be on the cool side of normal. We have what I think are going to be two weak cold fronts that will come through and just sort of reinforce the cool, dry air into the latter part of the week. And then toward the end of the week, Joe, and going into next weekend, I think we finally kind of get rid of that pattern, and that might allow some ridging to pop up late weekend, early next week along the East Coast. So we might have a couple of warmer days to look forward to late next weekend, early next week.
Well, it would be nice. We've got this pattern where, as you just saw on the upper level maps, the flow is almost west northwest or north northwest for the next several days, which means we're not going to be seeing any kind of near or even above normal temperatures for a while. But maybe, Joe, maybe by sometime around the third week of May, I'm talking about like 19th, 20th, 21st of May, with the ridge popping up, we just might see that long-awaited warming trend.
Now, I'm going to bring up the GFS surface because I don't know why it was doing this. I noticed this yesterday. It's still kind of doing this. We just have to wait for the circle of death to complete. It matches up fairly well with the European in the longer term. So that's good. By the way, while we're waiting for the GFS to load, the chairman hitting super chat today. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the kind words. And also thank you for everything you do with respect to Briller Jeopardy to keep our show exciting as we deal with the latest top 10 lists.
And tomorrow is his birthday too.
Yes, happy birthday to the
yes.
chairman. He's trailing behind the both of us, but not far behind.
No, this is not quite for you yet, but for me, this will be my first year delving into the wonderful world of Medicare. not immediately, but very soon. So
yes, gotcha. Well, I'm already
yes.
in the land of Social Security, so because I took it early, but that'll be coming soon enough for you.
I'm sure it will.
Yes. All right, so let's just really quickly run through the surface map here on the GFS, and you've got the surface low in northern West Virginia this evening, an area of rain again. It looks like the heaviest rain is probably going to be north of 40 degrees north, or maybe even north of 41 degrees north. And it even shows a little bit of blue in parts of southern New York, maybe in some elevated areas. Might still be cold enough aloft to help along with a little bit of wet snow or grapple if they get some intensity. You see the severe weather that the GFS indicates in that area of risk across the Tennessee Valley and down into East Texas. The low moves offshore at 2 a.m. The low center is sitting just east of the central New Jersey coast, and then it kind of rides away to the northeast. Monday into Tuesday, I think look okay, and you can see there's a little cold front here. It's hard to find because there's not really much with it. But again, I think it maybe be with the cold air, unstable air aloft on Tuesday, you're probably going to wind up with maybe some clouds, and perhaps there could be a scattered shower. Upstate New York even showing a little bit of blue. Meanwhile, in the south, the Colorado low in the Rockies there, you can see the snow that the model generates during the day Monday, starting from tonight and then going into Monday night. Translates to a low down in the Gulf states, and that opens up the door for some heavy rain and maybe some severe weather later on this week across the lower Gulf. But because everything is suppressed now with the flow in the east, everything is suppressed south, the weather in much of the east looks good. I can pick out maybe another little reinforcing cold front on Wednesday, and then finally the high starts to build in later in the week, eventually seeing that high settle off the east coast. And if the GFS is right, I'm thinking maybe a week from today, we'll be dealing with nice weather in 70s, and maybe Monday and Tuesday of next week, not the week that's upcoming, but the week of May 17th, that Monday and Tuesday of next week could be nice and warm, assuming that there are no complications, no hidden shortwave troughs and cold fronts that we can't see yet. And also, much of this coming week, Joe, into next weekend looks to be dry.
And of course, next weekend, the second of the Triple Crown, the Preakness down in Pimlico, which I'm sure you'll give your comments about as we get later on in the week in terms of the horses, not so much in terms of the weather.
Does look good. They'll be running in the Preakness Stakes on Saturday, and then the losers will be heading to the Sirloin Stakes on Sunday. I know. I just love. I
Well,
just
you
love.
know me. I had I for the Derby, I picked Soup and Sandwich, and for the first half of the race, Soup and Sandwich was like number two, and of course, at the very end, where was Soup and Sandwich? In the back.
Right. Um, yeah, that actually just kind of reminded me of the old Abbott and Costello routine: turkey sandwich and a cup of coffee. but no matter. Um, it
Or I'll
also,
have a small steak.
yes, exactly. I'll have a small steak. By the way, just a heads up, because I happened to see this. There was an article. I happened to see this on the net the other day, talking about, the possibility of an early tropical storm with, I'm guessing down in the Caribbean. And I did notice yesterday that the GFS, which it's been loving to do this lately and developing storms off the East Coast, it kind of does the same thing again on this particular run, but much less so than what it did on prior runs. I think was it last night or during the day yesterday, it wrapped up some big low off the Bahamas and then took it straight up toward the Gulf of Maine. Just be really careful when you look at models this time of year, especially when it comes to the tropics. And it's just going to be much like what we see the rest of the time, where the models love to, certain models love to spin up stuff, and 99 times out of 100 it just winds up being nonsense. But tropical weather outlooks will start a week from yesterday. So next Saturday we will have our first tropical weather outlooks of the season coming out. And by the way,
And the big
that
question,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, the big question is going to be: will we do it again? Will we have a tropical cyclone develop in the month of May? I think the last 4 to 6 years we've had storms develop or named storm systems take shape in May, earlier than the official start of the hurricane season on June the 1st. So, we'll see whether or not we still got more than a half a month to go before we run out on May, and we'll see how everything pans out.
Timothy Veltman, we're back up full screen, by the way. Timothy Veltman just sent me something. I'm just going to give it a quick look. We actually have our first so okay. So we have our first tropical storm in the Pacific.
Right.
Andres, the earliest named storm on record in the Eastern Pacific, breaking the record set by Tropical Storm Adrian on May 10th, 2017. And it's one of these fish storms. So
Right.
I'm gonna
Right.
see. I'm gonna just see real quick if I can just punch up the Pacific tropical satellite here, so for everybody to see, kind of whet everyone's appetite with respect to the upcoming tropical season. Let's see. All right, so there's the tropical Pacific. So let's see if this is going to work. And
And Dennis Cassia, by the way, on the chat board mentioning, in case you have not heard, that the Chinese rocket, which the mainstream media was just enjoying mentioning and trying to scare people, this 20-ton piece of space debris from the space station that the Chinese sent up at the end of April. The Chinese rocket re-entered and landed in the Indian Ocean. So no need for you to be upset that it might, fall on your house or in your backyard. And every time they mentioned that in the news, Joe, I kept thinking about that view of Wile E. Coyote
yeah,
looking up at the sky and having a little tiny parasol above his head,
yeah.
concerned about the Acme rocket falling on him. No need to worry about that.
Well, since 3/4 of the Earth is covered in water, there's a 75% chance that it would have hit that it's going to land in water somewhere. So,
Yes.
by the way, I do have the satellite view up, and if you it's loading frames to try to loop this, but uh, Andres is right there. That blob of convection that's sitting south of the coast of Mexico, and will just move out to the west and pretty much disappear before too long. It's very early, and I don't I don't know of any correlations between early Pacific versus the Atlantic. Usually, when the Pacific is active, the Atlantic isn't. But one storm doesn't cut it for me as far as that calculation is concerned.
And the question is, now that we have Go 16 up there with so much more to utilize and look at when a system forms, might they have classified this as a tropical cyclone, let's say 20 or 30 years ago with some of the old GOES industry, or would they have just said, this is just a big blob of convection,
Yeah.
Now it seems like every little thing is labeled. Oh, there we go, another tropical cyclone, which is, I think, partially why we had this tremendous run on tropical systems in the Atlantic last season.
Well, yeah. Just think back to what was it? A couple of years ago, was it the B storm in the tropical Atlantic? I forgot the name. If it was one of those early season storms. I mean, it was basically it was a glorified severe thunderstorm, is what it was. They were putting out
Right.
advisories for something that had the gales extended outward 15 miles from the center. I mean, talk about the size of a pea. I mean, really, you're
I
right though.
know.
There are a lot
Yeah.
of there were a lot of systems that they're catching now that they did that, and of course this then calls into question. I mean, what is how much did we really miss over the years in terms of those tropical storms? A lot, probably
Exactly.
a lot.
Exactly. I'll tell you what, Joe, before we close things out, because again, we want to make this short because of Mother's Day, I do want to just quickly tell a Mother's Day story traced back to my early years as a radio weathercaster. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, I worked for a New York radio station. Not going to mention the names of the call letters, not going to mention the name of the program director, but the program director, her father owned the radio station. He was a very, I don't know, it was almost like the mother was like Mrs. Pink Chong from the old Lou Grant
Yes.
show, and the husband was Mr. Moneybags. He was the one who supplied all the revenue for the radio station, and the daughter figured the daughter was just automatically given the title of program director and figured that she could make any decision she wanted, and it would be right because she had the backing of mommy and daddy. And at the time, I was doing a radio show on this radio station in the morning with two veteran, well-known newscasters, Ralph Howard, who for many years was on WCBS News Radio 880 or 88, and Bill Ryan. Bill Ryan was on duty at NBC TV when John Kennedy was assassinated that terrible Friday afternoon. He was on with Chet Huntley, David Brinkley, Frank McGee, all great legendary news people. And then there was Bill Ryan, who was on the local news, but he was there with them, and he knew his stuff backwards and forwards. He was one of the, I think he always had like an underrated career. Now in his closing years as a broadcaster, he's on this radio station in New York working with Ralph Howard, and I was the weathercaster. And I used to put in these little did you know kind of things to make the weather a little bit interesting. So one morning I said on my weathercast, I said, Bill and Ralph, do you know that today is the birthday of the man who basically was behind the medium that we're on right now, radio? Today is the birthday of Marconi. And Ralph Howard said, did you know that Marconi is known as the father of radio? And of course, we all knew that. And I made the comment to Ralph. I said, yeah, he is the father of radio. I wonder who the mother of radio would be. And at that point, Bill Ryan chirped in and said, well, I don't know, but I think we work for one here at the station.
Hysterical. All right, folks,
And
let's go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe. Finish up.
the three of us that was the end. Boom, like that. And by the way, was it any coincidence that within like a month, all three of us were no longer employed at that radio station?
Yes. So let me just really quick run through. Michael McGuire, thank you so much for the generous super chat hit. Joe and I really do appreciate it, and he wants to wish a very special happy Mother's Day to his mom, Susan, who continues to work the front lines as a critical care nurse. And yes, let's absolutely Many women are working today in many many moms are working today in many different fields, and particularly in the medical profession. And we just want to, extend a very special Mother's Day to not only Mike's mom, but to everyone's mom out there, and that also includes Scott Briller's mom. Scott, also thank you for the super chat, and a happy Mother's Day to your mom, who watches this show on a regular basis. And we also had, just make sure I got everybody.
Did we get Michael McGuire?
Yeah, I got Michael McGuire, just did him. And yeah, so thanks again, everybody, for being here. Happy Mother's Day to all of your moms out there, or any moms that are on the chat board today. And Joe, happy Mother's Day to your mom. And so you spent time with her yesterday, and you've got the executive producer and your daughter coming today and your son
Well, we're going to be
Mom's
heading.
Day.
We're heading to my son right after we close out. We're heading right to our son and our daughter-in-laws for a lovely Mother's Day brunch. So
All right.
we will be
So you know what?
brunching.
Let's get you going. Have a great Sunday, folks. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern time. Goodbye, everybody.
Night all.